Alright guys, so we're going to be making some focaccia bread from the Hot Bread Kitchen cookbook. It is particularly one of my favorites. It's very adaptable. You can just bake it as is and dip it in some olive oil with some seasonings. You can eat it like it, just without olive oil. You can turn it into sandwich bread, or you can make it into a pizza. So I'm just going to be doing basic with maybe some like Italian seasonings at the end. But first we're going to I have some warm water, and it's going to go in, and then we're going to add in some yeast. And we're going to mix that for just a second to kind of get the yeast blended. And then we're gonna slowly add our flour in. I'm gonna put my collar on my mixing bowl for this so I can just spoon it in there. Hopefully make a little bit less of a mess. This is bread flour. So in the mixing bowl, I put in 2 cups plus 1 tablespoon of warm water. I added 1 teaspoon of active dry yeast. This is 700 grams or 1.5 pounds or 5.5 cups of bread flour. We're gonna mix this on low until the ingredients are combined, and then it starts to look like it's all wet. And then we're going to bump this up to medium, and we're gonna mix it for about 2 minutes until it looks like muffin batter, like a thick muffin batter. And then we're just gonna let it sit there for about 10 minutes so it can hydrate. That means that the flour just absorbs all of the water and kind of gives it a chance to acclimate before we get rocking too much. So it's all wet, so I'm gonna kick this up to medium for 2 minutes, and then I will show y'all what that looks like here in a second. Alright guys, so you can see that the flour has been absorbed by the water, and we're going to let this sit for about 10 minutes to fully hydrate. And then we're going to add some oil, our salt, and our sugar, and we're going to go on low and just kind of slowly build up our dough. And I will see you in 10 minutes. Okay, it's been 10 minutes, so we're gonna go ahead and add 2 tablespoons of olive oil and our 1 tablespoon of salt and 3/4 of a teaspoon of sugar. Here's my, it's half of what I've got right there. This is my sugar and my salt. That's gonna go in. I'm gonna mix this on low for about a minute until it's combined. Okay, now we're going to kick it up a notch and mix it until it's thick and starts to pull away from the sides of the bowl. That's going to take about 3 minutes. Okay, it's pulling away from the side of the bowl. So we're going to actually increase the speed to high until it all comes together and starts to make a slapping noise. About 6 minutes. Alright, so we're going to do what's called a window pane test. So we're going to kind of take some of our dough. It's super sticky, but the goal is that you can stretch it pretty far without it tearing. So that means that your gluten is fully developed, so that's awesome. Just throw that right on in there. We're gonna come in and get some oil on my hands. We're gonna come in, we're gonna take the dough off the hook. Maybe, there we go. And then this bread dough, which is still kind of sticky, which is okay, is gonna go into my bowl with olive oil in it. So in it goes. All right, it's all in there. We're gonna turn the dough over. Let me pour some oil on top. This is extra virgin olive oil. We're gonna pour that on top, but we've got to kind of cover it to ensure that it doesn't, it doesn't dry out, and that it can have adequate rise time. This is gonna go into my proofer for approximately 1.5 to 2 hours until it is 1.5 times its original volume. So I'm gonna cover this with plastic, and then it's going in my oven. Okay, so we've got the focaccia bread, and we're going to spread this olive oil all over the pan so that the bread doesn't stick to it. I'm gonna go up the sides a little bit. Wet my hands. Alright, so this is my sourdough bread, or not my sourdough, this is my focaccia bread, and it's risen 1.5 times. So we're just gonna kind of let it fall out of the bowl. Alright, come through and scrape what's left in here. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna press this down and into the sides of the pan. The goal is to get it to stretch all the way to the top. We're not gonna force anything. Okay, so if it's bouncing back, that's okay. We're gonna push it as much as we can. And then we're going to let it rest for 10 minutes, and then we're gonna press it some more, because the resting allows the dough and the gluten to kind of relax a little bit. So whenever we put it in the oven, it doesn't shrink. We want it to stay the same size as this whole pan. So I'm gonna let that rest for 10 minutes and then come back to it and try to press it out so I can get it in the corners. Once it is good and stretched, we're gonna let it rest for 30 minutes to kind of finish it before we pop it in the oven. Okay, so it's been about 10 minutes, so I'm gonna just kind of come in, and you can see already that it's not quite as bouncy or elastic as it was earlier, which is awesome. So I'm just gonna kind of come in, spread it a little bit more into the corners. Okay, so we're gonna let this set for 30 minutes. Then I'm gonna come in, poke a bunch of holes in it, drizzle some more olive oil to create some pockets, and then sprinkle some Italian seasoning on it and some salt, and it's going in the oven. Okay, so it's been 30 minutes. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna take our hands and we're gonna make a bunch of dimples. What this will do is create little pockets for the olive oil to set in, and it doesn't have to be pretty. nice and dimply. Lovely. That's why we wear aprons. Alright, so I've got some olive oil right here, so I'm just going to kind of pour it on, and then I have my brush, and I'm just going to kind of try to brush it in, although it's not really working so well. Whew. We are rising. Rising, rising, rising. Alright, there we go. There. Get a little air, let that air come out. Okay. So, pastry brush didn't really work out so well, so we're gonna just, alright. Kind of make sure that we go all the way through. That's when nails comes in handy. Okay. Let me wipe my hands off real fast. So what we're gonna do, I'm electing to just kind of go a simple route. So I've got some kosher salt here, so I'm just gonna salt that up a little bit. Try to make sure I hit all over, and then I'm going to take some garlic powder. I'm just going to lightly dust it with some garlic powder. Okay. And then I have some Italian seasoning. Okay, so this is going to go into the oven for 30 minutes, and then we're going to put it on a wire rack and let it cool, slice it up and serve it. Alright guys, so here's the focaccia bread. Doesn't it look delicious? Just came out of the oven. So I want to see what y'all do. Go home, make some focaccia, and post your pictures.